Today on the episode of The Bottom Line, we are joined by Chase Clymer, owner and operator of the agency Electric Eye, where they do Shopify design, development, and diagnostic of your Shopify store. Really specialists in CRO. So we're getting all things PDP, landing pages, diagnostic of your Shopify store. He's truly a CRO expert, but what I appreciate about Chase in this episode is actually how he thinks about marketing just in general. He makes it really simple. What is the problem solution that your marketing is doing? How are people buying? He uses a phrase consistently, let's just start closest to the money and back out from there when we're looking at optimizing your site, optimizing your landing pages, thinking about conversion rate, how conversion rate can be a misleading metric, how you should be thinking about your site differently from a 1 to 5 SKU brand versus something with 500 plus. Really enjoyed this conversation. So if you guys are thinking about or improving your site from a customer journey perspective, ultimately, especially when we come into play, we're thinking about new customer acquisition. We can drive the best traffic in the world, but if your website is terrible, that's obviously not a good thing. So this is an incredible amount of performance and impacts performance in a really powerful way. So without further ado, let's jump into the episode. So when you're looking at sites, what are the biggest telltale signs that you need better PDP or landing pages?
It's probably the navigation. That's where it really separates kind of the boys from the men, for a terrible analogy. Honestly, what that shows me is someone's like too close to the business and they don't understand the real driving metrics or like what the customer journey should be. And so an example that it's like if you've got your about us in your top line navigation, it's like this should probably be rethought and retooled. It's why would you put it's literally just real estate, right? So imagine you've got like a high street in your downtown area of your town, and on the front windows, you're just like telling your brand story and you're just not talking about your best-selling product, right? If it was a barber shop, you should probably have the prices of your haircuts on your front window, right? But sometimes people get caught up in about their just things that aren't actually driving revenue. And the way that you can kind of run into the analytics and look at things is you can just pull a report, Shopify, Google Analytics, whatever, and revenue by page and start to really see what's actually driving the business. Because here's the thing. If someone is interested in your product and they like make it to your PDP, to the actual product page, if they have a question, they will figure it out and they'll look in your footer or whatever, and they'll find the answer to that question, usually return policies or guarantees or whatever. But going back to what I was starting here is navigation is like one of the first signs. If it's not well thought out, it usually is kind of an earmark. There's probably some other underlying stuff going on.
Yeah, because the way that we think about it, obviously, with how much ad spend we're driving, we can send the best traffic in the world to your site, but if your site sucks, performance isn't going to be there. So this is like a huge thing that you have a lot of effect on.
Well, it's the same thing on my end. If I one of the first questions I ask when people reach out to our agency for help, and I go, let's say we build the best website ever. How are you going to show it to people? Like, what are you going to do after the fact? Like, just because it exists doesn't matter. And back to like my storefront analogy, we build the coolest store in the world, but if it's in the middle of the desert and no one's seeing it, doesn't matter.
Looking at that, you have the Shopify diagnostic. Some of your questions like, does the product page have customer reviews? This is like kind of a yes/no thing. Is the cart clear and intuitive to use? Nothing preventing continuing to check out. Is the address autocomplete enabled? Like all these things kind of just tell me, are you just making it as easy as possible for people to literally just buy your dang product?
I would be out of business if it was that simple, but it kind of is. It's literally just, sometimes you just literally go out to the bar with your wife, have a few cocktails, and come back and use your website yourself and pretend like you're a customer and try to buy something. And you'll notice, we've got 3 pop-ups firing about our email opt-in offer, and that's frustrating. If it's frustrating to you, it's definitely frustrating to your customers. Your customers you really have to think about what they have going on in their life. They're on a subway trying to buy these diapers, right? They're in a cab trying to buy this soft drink or whatever. Like, they really need it to be quick, intuitive, It's all about just answering. I think like CRO is like half of it's performance and speed and like the optimization stuff, and then half of it's just answering questions and like letting them not have any fear, uncertainty, or doubt about the product actually solving the problem that they're trying to do with it.
Well, I think this is a good transition. Let's back up a little bit here. With you being the CRO expert here on the Kinship podcast, like, can you just quickly define it in your words? What is CRO? Because you just touched on it, and me and Cody were literally just talking about it the other day. I feel like there's a lot of nuance to quote unquote CRO and what all that entails. Like, for example, we were talking about this the other day, and it's like, does that include like testing offers, or is it just like technical things like what you've been talking about with navigation and real estate? Like, can you go a little bit further into that? Because personally, I feel like there's a lot of crooks out there in this space. So I'm just curious, break down how you think about this channel. I've heard you say things, along the lines of AOV optimization, profit optimization, so on and so forth. So let's hear it from the horse's mouth. What is CRO?
Conversion rate optimization, CRO, is the worst named thing in the world, right? So conversion rate optimization in the world of e-commerce and what all these CMSs, like, there's usually conversion rate is like a metric on the back end, right? So from not a layman, but if you just hear the term conversion rate optimization, you think you're optimizing the conversion rate, right? But this term goes I would say it goes back before e-commerce even existed on the internet. Conversion rate optimization was a saying and a thing. So a conversion is getting a user to do the thing you want them to do. So that could be a page view. That could be a form submit, right? So CRO for lead gen is all about form submit optimization. It's a whole other business practice on the other side of the internet. But you could optimize for page views. You could optimize for clicking a certain button, viewing a certain page. All sorts of things you could optimize for. And if the user does that thing, that is a conversion for that thing. But we're in e-commerce. Let's be real. So CRO in this world is not only is it trying to raise the conversion rate, but also average order value is a huge moving factor. Revenue per session is something that is kind of like a good blended thing that really shows if you're having an upward trend, like, is this the right idea here? But at the end of the day, what you're doing is, it doesn't matter what your conversion rate is or whatever the metric is that you're optimizing for. You have your starting place, and then you're just trying to iteratively improve it.
I hesitate even asking this because, I'll just say this. Like, our benchmark's completely stupid to even talk about, because I feel like that's a natural question, which is like, well, what should I be shooting for on my website? And like, conversion rate even on your website is really misleading.
It comes up in every kind of starter conversation. It's like, well, what are my competitors doing? I see this in Klaviyo,
which is not helpful.
I would say it's dumb. Yeah, let's just it doesn't matter what other people are doing because it doesn't help you. It's like, oh, you go to the gym and you see another guy is benching more than you. How does that help you get better? It doesn't, right? You are where you are, and you need to just work on what you've got. And so, seeing a guy with the same body type benching, you're like, oh, well, I can aspire to that. I'm sure I could get there, but it doesn't help you get there. You have to actually do the work. So, if you're really off from like whatever your industry benchmark is, it probably just kind of, you got to think about, well, how is my offer different? How is my pricing different? How is my product actually different, right? Because if you're a luxury product, your conversion rate's probably going to be lower than a commoditized product, just because that's how the value scale goes, and that really affects conversion. Your intro offer, like, a lot of the people that have really high conversion rates, they're kind of like taking it like a loss on that first sale to acquire a customer, because maybe they've got a bunch of funding that allows them to pay to acquire that first customer, because they know they're going to make it up on the back end, because they've got like a lifetime value that's a lot higher than what your business might be. There's so much stuff that goes into play there. So it's, competitor analysis is basically only good for getting ideas to test, in my opinion.
Sounds like it's a similar statement that we get from time to time, Cody. Hey, we heard so-and-so is getting a 4 ROAS. How do you get that for us? It's like, well, that very well probably shouldn't be the target metric of success for your brand.
Are they paying for it?
It sounds like it's pretty exactly the same there.
Even just like ad library inspiration, like we don't have to go down that rabbit hole. It's just I don't even know if those are all that helpful. It's kind of just like, oh, that's cool. So I've heard you are not just a numbers guy. Like, we've gotten very practical, but even just how you've started this show and some of your answers, like, I think you are thinking about the customer journey holistically when you're doing data-driven work. Can you expound upon that? Because I've also heard you, like, even in conversations in person, you've talked about more of a problem solution. People are buying things, and we all know this. Like, people are buying things as the solution to some problem, whether it could be an insecurity, a vanity purchase. I feel better when I wear this, or it could be like a practical problem, like I have acne and I need to get rid of it. Expound upon that, on how you think about that when you actually do your work.
Well, this maybe it's not the answer, but it's something that's really top of mind for me. Is ChatGPT is crazy these days, and so we were working with our clients on like building landing pages and like trying to help. Like, a product page is kind of very templated these days, especially in Shopify. It's like picture on the left, bull crap on the right, and just nonsense, right? But it doesn't actually do a good job of speaking to the personal narrative of what problem is this thing solving. And I straight up just was like, I wonder what ChatGPT will do here. This is yesterday I did this, and here's the prompt. I'm going to tell it to you because it's super simple. Is I just found kind of the flagship product for that client. And I was like, okay, we're going to build a landing page for this product. And then please build like the outline of the landing page using this format, which is the AIDA landing page formula. And so what those things stand for is attention, interest, desire, and action. And I just dropped in a blog post from Wishpond, which I'll send over to Cody and Taylor, and they'll put it in the show notes here. And it spit out like basically the best MVP ever. And I'm like, all right, cool. Let's build a landing page from this, and then we'll just start testing on top of it. And it's like just a fast process. That didn't answer your question, but that's kind of where my brain went.
That's a ton of value right there, though. Take notes on that one.
Yeah, I think it's just thinking holistically around the customer journey. It kind of goes back to the pain point of like, people are like, they're building their website because it looks cool and I like it. And they're not thinking about the user experience, or they don't test it themselves. I was literally on a website yesterday in an ad account audit, and this isn't even our lane. This is your lane. But I go to the PDP pages to see like what the traffic is being driven to. And they have I'm scrolling, it's going through pictures going left to right. And it was so painful. Like, I had to scroll so heavily to get down to like what the product page was. I was like, oh man, it was like so cringy. I'm like, man, I would bounce from this in a second.
Okay, so here's what you do to that client. Is you force them to put on like a heat mapping software. Yeah, put a heat mapping software on there, and then you can do like scroll depth, and you'll be like, people aren't even getting a third of the way down this page because they're annoyed. And then you so oftentimes there are decisions made on website design that are driven by like a stakeholder and not necessarily driven by strategy. And it's sometimes you approach these problems and you don't want to like be butting heads with your client. So the best way to do it is just to come with data and be like, oh, look, your customers don't like this thing. And then it's just such a better way to approach it.
There's a problem today with too much fake UGC saturation. Consumers are looking for authentic reviews and content, and this is a way that you can stand out in your crowded market with authentic influencer content. So Cody here with an ad read for Get Cyril. So there's an explosion of D2C brands across categories. You got to be able to stick out. We here at Kinship actually use Cyril for influencer discovery, but Cyril is not just a discovery tool, but a way that you can search for brand aligned influencers, but reach out directly. You can manage them all in place. You can track performance all within one platform. So brands like Avi, Legends, Tab Chocolate are using them to get hundreds of creators talking about them on socials, and you can too. And in addition to that, all of our clients here at Kinship that are doing seeding are using that platform as well. So you can start your free 7-day trial with Cyril to get authentic UGC. Go check them out.
How do you think about CRO for a brand that has 1 to 5 SKUs versus a brand with 500 plus SKUs? And it seems like you kind of went into a little bit with that ChatGPT free value prompt that you just gave everyone. But if you can expound upon that a little bit more with your thoughts, that'd be great.
So if you've got like a low SKU count, you've got a funnel that's probably driven more by like your hero product and maybe like your bundle or offer or whatever. And the value is in that product solving problems. But when you have like a higher SKU count, it's more driven by brand. And so you can kind of think about it the same way that you think about your marketing. If you've got like one hero product and that's where you're driving all your traffic to, you're going to spend all of your time on that, like kind of one product, that one funnel, and how that all works out. But if you are like a clothing brand or something and you've got a bunch of things, you're probably driving a lot of traffic to your collection pages. So those better be optimized to the T. All right. And just a little aside on collection pages, your filtering and sorting better be on point. Oh my gosh, that is so much. If you don't have filtering and sorting with like a high SKU count store, you're just leaving money on the table. You got to think about it, not only filtering by like size, color, fabric, maybe, but like use case, right? So a good example that I talked about the other day on a podcast was people buy protein powder for various reasons, right? It's not just mass gain, but some of it's weight gain. Some people want to have the most healthy protein powder. Some people have allergies. And so you'll often, on good websites, you'll see that they have the ability to sort by like the outcome that you want, right? So that if you've got a high SKU count store, you got to have all these considerations of how are people going to want to like filter and sort down and to find the product that they want. And honestly, just go to Amazon and look at your category and see what the heck they're doing over there. That will give you a lot of good ideas to help improve your navigation and collection pages there. So if you got a lower SKU count store, I mean, just build out a cool landing page and start testing a bunch of stuff with your offer and your bundles and all that jazz. And then if you've got a lot of SKUs, it's like make sure your collection pages are great. On that collection page, like if you're on the PDP and you have a lot of products, you can kind of maybe switch your testimonials and your reviews. Instead of being centric about the one product, it could be about the business as a whole. That's something that oftentimes works a bit well. We just built out for one of our clients. It's a skincare company. They've got a whole bunch of things, and they keep adding and subtracting things. But they've got I think it was over 10,000 customers served or whatnot. And so we started highlighting that stuff on the PDP. So it's like, we haven't sold 10,000 of this one product, but out the entire brand, we've done this. So speaking to those things really helps out as well. But regardless of what style business you have and the SKU counts, things that really move the needle, testimonials, user-generated content, reviews, like that stuff really helps.
So Chase, we have a client we're reviewing their ad account as of late, and we're looking at the ad account. We look at a lot of time. Our biggest indicator of success is spend against cost controls, and then we have secondary soft metrics that we look at. But one of them is click-through rate. How like desire, right? In that attention, interest, desire, action, we define desire as the click-through rate for in-ad account metrics when we're looking at that marketing acronym and applying it to what we do. So basically, the traffic or the click-through rate we were driving for this ad account is the highest we have across all of our clients. But once they get to the website, the conversion rate falls off a cliff. So we're getting them there, and we can talk about on this podcast, how could we, do creative better to better inform them of what they're clicking into so they have their purchase decision already made up. But on the conversion rate optimization side of things, the conversation quickly becomes, okay, what is it about them going to this website and then just not wanting to purchase it? We're driving a ton of desire for them to get there, but then they get there and they fall off a cliff. Conversion rate falls off a cliff. And I'm curious to hear from you, what has a bigger impact? The offer itself, because what in my mind is like, is it pricing? They love what they're buying, and the creative is well informed on what they're getting into. So is it just pricing? Okay, should we be testing pricing? Is it the offer? Is it, we've been talking a lot of technical details here, how it's set up in the customer journey, so on and so forth. I'm curious to hear from you. What has the biggest impact on that conversion rate, in your opinion, from the CRO side of things?
It's nothing you listed, actually. It's the product. It's literally, I have seen people spend tens of millions of dollars on the worst website in the world because the product fit the market so well. It solved a problem so well, right? So if you want to have a great business, have a great product. That's like the best advice I can give anybody.
Wait, so expand upon that a little bit more on that detail. So you're saying it's the product, but if the creative is showcasing the product, and maybe I'm just being ignorant here, but help me get to where you're at. If the product is very clear in what it is in the ad, and they're saying, "Yep, there's a desire for me to click to the website because I like what I see here and I'm interested in buying this," wouldn't that mean that the product is driving enough desire for them to be interested in buying the product at that point?
Yeah, I'm just gonna do some guesstimation because I don't know what this product is. They haven't shared it with me, so I think it's fun to kind of do this thought experiment. I would say the one guess would be that while the product is interesting to the consumer, the perceived value of that product doesn't match the price point on it, which doesn't necessarily mean you need to lower the price. It means you need to expand upon the value that you're getting from the product. And oftentimes it's like,
and it is really high price, by the way, in comparison to the market. So you're on the head here.
Yeah, a good guarantee or a warranty, like that can really move the needle. It's like, well, if I'm going to pay $300 for this thing, I need to know that if it doesn't solve my problem, that I'm going to get my money back, right? Because the consumer is very, very, especially in America, and what Amazon has done has really changed consumers to where like they really want to know about the return policy, they want to know about the satisfaction guarantees, etc., whatever. So we've reviewed a bunch of product pages and just businesses, and it's the same advice over and over again. It's like, what's your return policy? Can you make it more friendly to your consumers? What's your guarantee? You don't have one, write one, right? It's just honestly like beyond like there's no like, none of these businesses that are listening to this podcast are doing enough business to where changing a button color from red to blue is really going to do anything. It comes down to like the copy that is aside the offer.
So you hit it on the head of the nail. Like, it is a pricing. I mean, I didn't tell you the brand. We didn't tell him behind the scenes. He hit it on the head of the nail. It's a pricing thing. They're really highly priced in comparison to the rest of the market, but they feel as though it deserves that pricing. So it comes down to narrative, comes down to warranty, so on and so forth. So let's say we dial that all in. Well, it kind of goes to my secondary question, because again, to this client, it's like, hey, this isn't exactly our lane here. So I'm curious to ask this follow-up question of, does it more... The order of operations for you when you do CRO, is it, let's dial in all like the technicality side of things, make sure everything is aligned with the story of this product, make sure the navigation is dialed in properly, make sure, the add to cart, initiate checkout, everything is dialed into optimization the way that you see best fit. I'm imagining like your checklist here. Is that first order of operation? And then if that's all true and it's set up for optimal success, hey, is it the offer at this point? We should rethink our offer or be testing new offers. Like, how do you think about the order of operations there and what's more important?
Yeah, so the way that we approach things is a little bit different. And it's basically just like, what's closest to the money? And like, I'm a service business. I need to show them some value first. So we just go closest to the money, which is basically in checkout is where we're going to start, which you can have, especially in the Shopify ecosystem. If you're on Plus, you get access to customize the checkout, and a lot of merchants don't do that and they're scared of it. But there's a lot of value you can add there. Again, it's just guarantees, testimonials. Like you can put that stuff in your checkout, and it does increase like the conversion from checkout to actual purchase, right? You put stuff, but also something we haven't talked about at all on the show is like AOV motivators, average order value increase. And I know you guys know exactly like how much that increases the return on ad spend if you can increase the AOV. It's the same cost to acquire that customer, but now you're just making more profit on each sale. But yeah, so like in checkout, you can do upsells and cross sells. And then from there, we back up to the actual side cart or cart page. That's where we're going to spend some more time, basically do the same stuff. And then from there, we're going to focus on, it's 80-20 rule, everybody. Focus on the best selling products and offers. Look at that page.
Should be singular focused.
Also, post-purchase is free money.
So much free value here. Come on.
When a brand's on Amazon, how do you think about that .com experience differently?
Yeah, it's so. I guess I'll just let everybody, like, our lane is like the direct consumer side of things, but we understand most of our clients also have an Amazon business. And there's like a tertiary effect or an overlapping effect. Like if you increase your ad spend on your direct to consumer brand, you'll see an uptick in sales on Amazon. So it's just the customers will buy where they want to buy. And it's not about like convincing an Amazon buyer to buy online, like on your store. But a strategy that I've seen a lot of brands employ is what is on their website is different than what's on Amazon. Like Amazon might be like a higher quantity or like a different, like a lesser SKU count of availability of stuff. And then like the whole business like will be available on their direct to consumer store or vice versa. Like sometimes it's like Amazon's the whole business and then they just put, old stuff on the store. And, there's like everything in business, there's like a different strategy and approach for all of it, and nothing's right or wrong. It's just what works for your business.
But you're not necessarily doing anything different when a brand is like, let's say 50-50 split between Amazon and .com. You're not thinking about the site experience any differently.
No, not really. But it is useful to tell. Like oftentimes what happens is brands come to us and they want to increase purchases on their .com versus Amazon because Amazon is just always raising fees. And so it just goes back to just straight CRO stuff. Get rid of the fear, the uncertainty, the doubt, add more content, add more copy, and we haven't even got into like some of the strategies that we employ to find out what's missing. And we can go down that rabbit hole if you want.
For sure. I'm actually on your end. I just have a follow-up question on this exact point. What are your, because more and more we're seeing it across our clients. And I personally hate it. It's not personally hate it because we give up margin on Amazon and people constantly looked at our in-out account ROAS without factoring in the multiplier effect that inevitably happens when you have an Amazon store and we're driving traffic to a Shopify store. People are going to go to Amazon, see if it's there, but that's not factored into the ROAS that you're looking at in the ad account. This buy with Prime add to cart button that sits below the Shopify add to cart button, more and more it's hitting that landing page, and it just creates so much more labor for our team and communicating, which we're happy to do. But I'm curious to hear on your end what your thoughts on that button is and pros and cons.
I think you're just giving away margin if you put that on your store.
Yes. You heard it here first.
So websites are designed to do a thing, right? And if you're on a product page and now you're giving competing call to action, right? One call to action is buy from us, or the other call to action is buy from this global conglomerate that has like an insane return policy, like the number one brand trust in the world.
Who the hell would choose the .com experience?
Exactly.
You're just giving them a cut.
You're just paying an extra $7 for the same sale. I don't know.
Not a numbers guy, but that doesn't make sense.
Yeah. And to be blunt, when brands have that stuff and they reach out to us, we are immediately like having conversations like, why is this here? And if, just like kind of a north star of our agency and like the stuff that we do, it's like we work primarily with brands where their D2C experience, their Shopify store is more than 50% of their business.
That's all I wanted to hear. Why give up the data? Why give up the commish when you don't need to? And you heard it here first from an expert in the space. Don't do it.
Maybe that's his bottom line advice.
Well, actually, I'm curious to hear, Chase, like what were some of those strategies that you're deploying over?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to pull up a little piece of information here so I make sure I hit all the things I want to hit here. But when you are doing conversion rate optimization, there is kind of like a couple different like thought processes, right? So the first one is there's going to be like the heuristic stuff, which basically means like, what do we see on this website, right? And so that's like kind of the knowledge stuff that we have as like experts in the space. I've been in this space for almost a decade, and so has kind of everyone on our team. And so when we're looking at it, we can kind of see what's right and what's wrong on a store, but we should still test those things, right? And so at the end of the day, CRO, we're going to try to find ideas, and then we're going to either implement them because we know basically it's wrong, or we're going to test it against stuff. So there's the heuristic stuff. That's what the data tells us. There's the qualitative stuff, and that's like what our customers are telling us, or like the analytics are showing us on the website. And then obviously there's kind of just like what experts see. And when we dive into a site, the first time that we talk to a client, we're usually just going to do that Shopify diagnostic that Cody talked about earlier, where that's just all heuristic stuff. That's all stuff that we see, and it's like qualitative stuff from their analytics and like what we're finding on the website. And that's just going to make a laundry list of things that we could potentially fix. And then we kind of just, with the client, talk through all of these kind of opportunities and we weigh them out. We like the ICE principle. Are you familiar with that?
Pretend we're not, for all the listeners out there.
It's a formula used to kind of like figure out what is the best path forward. Hold on. So it's impact would be like so ICE stands for impact, certainty, and ease. So the impact of this idea, like, will it increase the conversion rate? Will it increase the average order value? Will it increase revenue per 7? Like, what is that impact that we theorize that this impact would be? What is the certainty of that impact, right? We're like, we think or we know, right? And so you put that in there, and then the ease of it. Like, is this like a $100,000 like redesign from the ground up, or is this something that we can accomplish in a couple days? And you just put them in there 1 to 10, and you do that for all the ideas, and then multiply them all together, and you just then sort them by the weight, and that kind of tells you what probably should be the first thing that you go after. And so we tackle that stuff. So that's the heuristic stuff. So what we see on the website as experts, and also like the qualitative stuff. So what the data is telling us. But something that we're not going to know from like an initial evaluation like that is like, you can get a lot deeper, right? You want to put like a heat mapping tool on, and most of the time when we're talking to merchant, they don't have one, or they're like, maybe we have it installed, nobody checks it. So we have to like wait and get enough data to see what's going on with those heat mapping tools. All the heat mapping tools usually have user recordings and screen recordings as well. Everybody has rage clicks these days, and that's just free information. You can see where people are frustrated on your website. A button something they think's a button that's not a button that they're clicking on a bunch, or something that's broken. Like, all that stuff comes out with those rage click metrics. So that, again, that's qualitative data that your customers are telling you about. But something that's really overlooked is just customer interviews. Just find your best customers, send them an email, be like, we'll give you a $50 gift card if you get on the phone with us for 30 minutes, and just start asking them questions about why they bought. They'd be like, hey, what's wrong with our website? And they'll be like, oh, this thing's wrong. And you're like, we didn't know that. It's that easy half the time. So you get on the phone with your customers. You can also do actual like user testing. A website that we like to use is called Playbook UX. And you can hire people there that will like explore your website and tell you what's wrong. You can tell them to do certain actions, and you get a lot of ideas from that. Again, I cannot stress enough how awesome heat maps are. And we're actually, there's a new tool out there in the ecosystem. It's literally just heatmap.com. And I can't believe no one did this before, but what they did is they took the concept of heat maps and tailored it more exclusively for e-commerce, and tied in revenue metrics based upon what has been clicked on, interacted with, or hit the viewport of a mobile device. So you can see, like, if someone that viewed this thing at the end of the product page on mobile, like, how much revenue did someone that saw this thing drive versus another thing. So it allows you to extrapolate from kind of these sessions and whatnot, like, is this thing important? Because if it's not important, delete it from your website, because all you're doing is confusing people when you have too much information. I know earlier I said add as much information as possible. Now I'm going to basically counteract that by saying, unless it's stupid, then to get rid of it. But yeah, heat mapping software is amazing. And then with all these ideas, and it kind of goes back to the ICE principle, if your certainty is less than 100%, you should probably test it. And we've had home run ideas that were just implemented wrong. And we always test everything. And you'll immediately realize, oh, like, we forgot this important thing because the split test is going haywire. And like, you'll instantly realize, like, oh, like, we just didn't do this thing. Once you put that in, it, like, you know, it goes off with gangbusters. But you got to test everything. And our favorite tool is Intelligence for testing.
There you go. What is Chase, what's, just wrapping up here, last question, easiest thing to do that makes the biggest impact to their site?
Oh, adding upsells everywhere and cross sells. I mean, we're obviously Shopify dudes, and we really like Shopify. And the one that we kind of really like the best these days is called, I'm looking for their exact name right now, Upsell Plus. It's just the way, so Oftentimes, a lot of these like upsell and cross-sell engines take over the cart experience, which is just a lot of extra JavaScript. It slows down the website, etc. This one, you can embed it right into your pre-existing side cart, and the price point is a lot more merchant friendly.
Very cool. If you buy it today, Chase gets a ton of money back. So
I don't even know if we have an affiliate deal set up with them. I just half these products I just really, really like.
No, I'm just kidding. You're quite the opposite of that. You're tons of value today. Chase, thanks for coming on the show, my man.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.